Hi everyone, I'm Mikey Stiller and it's my pleasure to welcome you to this webinar all about how you can have your best year ever in 2017. Joining me is Raj Vasugi. Hi Raj.
Hi Mikey, how are you?
I'm doing great, and I think we have a really great topic to talk about today. While we get started, I was hoping that everybody could start typing in the chat. Let us know where you're from. I'm going to ask Raj quite a few questions. He's been one of Bob's closest students for almost 8 years now. Is that right, Raj?
Yeah, that's correct, Mikey.
All right, so also if you guys have some questions, go ahead and put them in the chat. I am going to be monitoring the chat, and if I see a question that I think is a great one, I will go ahead and ask Raj. So Raj, tell me, what does your process look like this time of year?
Well, this time of year I have a two-step process. First off, I learned from Bob a number of years ago not to wait until January to set your goals for the new year. I'll never forget, he told me, the people who really get on and start the year on fire, start prepping their new year, for us 2017, the beginning of December. A lot of people come with New Year's resolutions, and we can get into that later, but I encourage everybody to start planning their year now. Know exactly what you want, know exactly what you're going to go after in 2017. So by the time January 1st comes, you've already planted the seed out there. Now it's time to reap the benefits, and you get to work and really shoot up like a rocket. That's number one. And number two, once I've already done that, I still focus on this year, for us 2016. So I want to finish out the year strong. What happens when I work with people and coach people and discuss this, work with Bob, work with you, Mikey, and different people, a lot of people put their foot on the brake the last half of December. And I actually do the opposite. I think there's so much you can still do because we still get every day. We trade our time for what we do. So my process is a bit, in terms of goal setting and goal achieving, it's two-step. It's to focus on what I want for the new year and how I want to finish the year strong. Because think about this for a second. Think about if somebody takes their foot off the gas and starts coasting. And I'm not saying don't enjoy your family and friends and holidays, but when you're working, really work at what you're going after, because what you're doing is you're going to create a habit, and you could create a bad paradigm for yourself that's going to start your year off bad because it's going to still be in coast mode.
Raj, I might venture to say that people even start coasting around October, waiting for that new year mark for a fresh start and New Year's resolutions and the big goals. I think you're exactly right. So what do you think people should do to kind of break that paradigm and break that habit and get out there and make these last 2 weeks their best?
Well, first thing they do is they got to understand that they've got to make a decision first. They've got to make a decision that today is going to be their best day, that they're going to beat what they did yesterday today. You want to get, I've always said, I learned this a long time ago, that if you just focus on beating your best every day, you're going to win big. Even if you just improve 1% a day over a course of a year, it would transform one's life. Now, if you think about it in 2 weeks, you don't have to wait till January 1st to start getting, let's say a lot of people at this time of year want to start focusing on their health, okay, getting more fit, losing weight, and whatever, if it's an income goal, same thing. They don't have to wait. If you're waiting, you're always planning to plan. So you're creating a seed of procrastination in your mind. And most people, that's one of the biggest things that holds people back is procrastination. They don't act on ideas. Bob always says, and I'm sure everybody's heard him say this, he said most people's ideas stay stillborn. They don't go anywhere. So right now, and if there's anybody on this call who has something that they're saying, I'm going to wait till January 1st, start doing 1 or 2 things today to get that idea into motion. Don't wait for another 2 weeks, okay, or 10 days, whatever it is. So I encourage you, first off, to get it on paper first. Put it down on paper what you want in the present tense, because then you could start conditioning your mind with that. So get it down and write it in the present tense. You can go as long or as little as you want. Maybe it's a page, page and a half. Some people do longer. I keep it to a page and a half of what I want. Then I start reading it and really becoming it. You know, like Bob always talks to you, Mikey, I know about Stella Adler's book, The Art of Acting. And that's what we're doing when we're doing this. We're really becoming what we want. And so that's what I would encourage people, because right now you could even if you just wrote out what you wanted for 2017 today, okay, you get off this call or you hear this, whether you hear it on a recording, write it out and start reading that every day, but really get emotionally involved in it. And it's already going to make an impact for the next 10 days or 2 weeks between now and the start of the year.
You know, Raj, I think that's such an interesting topic. And I believe there's a couple of groups of people. And one of those groups really has a hard time figuring out exactly what they want and allowing their mind to venture to what they want. And another group doesn't think they can actually achieve what they actually want. They know what they want, but they don't believe they can achieve it. So maybe you can talk about those two groups. And if anybody on the line falls in those groups, maybe you can help them.
Well, I think it's, you know, goes with, you know, past experiences too. You know, people who have set goals and they've never achieved them, so now they stop dreaming. So they don't want to let themselves down, so they protect themselves, whether they know it consciously or unconsciously, and they don't go after truly what they want. But the real thing about it, both groups are similar, is you can achieve anything you want, but before you can achieve it, you have to become it. And I was talking to a client yesterday, and this lady said, you know, I've never achieved my goals, so I'm tired of trying. I said, don't be tired of trying. Try a different way. Just because you haven't achieved it doesn't mean you won't achieve it. The only way somebody loses is if they give up. And the thing people need to understand is you can have and achieve your goals, but you have to change your paradigms first, because our paradigm is the primary cause of our results. And until we get to the deep root of what is holding us from, like Bob calls it, the knowing doing gap, from where we are to where we want to go, we're not going to get there. But once somebody starts understanding the power they hold inside of themselves in their mind, and they start shifting that, both those two groups will really achieve what they want. Does that make sense?
Totally makes sense. So one of the things that I really wanted to talk about today was actual strategies for people to make 2017 their best year ever. Not more of the same, not just gradual results, maybe what they've seen in the past few years, but how can they really break through and take a quantum leap in 2017?
Sure. I think, first of all, for somebody to take a quantum leap in 2017, they got to believe, they got to accept the idea that they are going to take a quantum leap in 2017 first. Until we accept an idea, nothing happens, okay? What I mean by accepting an idea is you say, I'm not sure how this is going to happen. I don't know when it's going to happen. I don't know which way it's going to happen, but I know that 2017 is going to be my best year ever. And I'm not going to do what's convenient. I'm going to do whatever it takes. You have to have that type of certainty. And even if you don't have the confidence that it's going to happen, you can fake it, okay? That's the first step. Once you accept the idea, you make a decision that you're going to stay committed in doing it, okay? And there may be, you may go 5 days a week, super committed. Then you might fall back. Then get back the next day. Start over, you know? I create something that Bob gave me a long time ago for my habits, and I'll show it to you. It's called a commitment accountability. So each day I put different goals that I have, and I mark it off. So it has 30 or 28 days, and every day I mark it off for my daily disciplines towards my goals to make sure I'm doing it. And if I miss a day, I just put a circle on it, and I start over from day one. Now, that's just something that works for me. But then we have to get that goal on a goal card. I know everybody who's in this community has heard Bob talk about goal cards. The goal card is so valuable. Like, I can't tell you, I didn't really believe in it when I first started. I didn't understand it, you know, but over the years, you know, I have used the goal card every day. And what I do is, because I work from home a lot of the time, so I have it in front of me all the time. But what I do is I start my day and I read my goal card for 5 minutes. It just gets me focused on what I want. and it doesn't distract me. See, if I start my day focused on what I want, I feel for me what works is it keeps my mind constantly thinking about what I'm going after instead of, oh, that's right, that's the goal I'm going after. Like, I want it to become an obsession in my mind. I'll tell you a story on this. When I first started being mentored by Bob, I asked him a question and I said, how often do you visualize your goal? And he said, all day long. And I didn't understand it. And then he went deeper with me and he says, you don't have to literally sit with your eyes closed all day long, but you want it in the forefront of your mind and be thinking about it, right? Like Andrew Carnegie told Napoleon Hill that you have to have your goal needs to be an obsession, you know, and I found that to be true. See, to achieve these goals, we have to first demand it of ourselves that we're going to go after it. So Mikey, I have a question for you on this. I want you to think about the goals you've achieved, because you've come a long way since we've worked together. Okay, what do you think has been the biggest imprint on you for you to achieve your goals?
You know, I've actually been thinking about this the last couple of weeks as I think about what's been working and what I want to do different this next year. And I really think the thing that made the biggest impact was my belief level. And I feel like every time I achieve a goal, my belief level goes up and my confidence in my goal setting and goal achieving goes up. And so I think one thing that people can do in 2017 is set some small goals to gain confidence. And then they'll have more momentum and confidence going into their big goals, knowing that they can achieve them. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think you want to, I always believe it's the little things compounded over time that create the big results. Okay, so I agree. I still think you should have a big goal that you're going after because all the small goals will be achieved on the way. However, it's not, I used to think when I wasn't where I am today, I used to think, oh, there's this big move I have to make or this big idea I have to have. But then as I was going on my progression of growth, I realized, and I look back, we were at Carnegie Hall and Bob was talking in New York and he was talking about little things. And I was just, it was like a flashback for me. And I was thinking, it hasn't been this big thing that I did. It's been a bunch of little things that I did and became really good at, you know, and that's what creates the big results. So if anybody's sitting back there at home or watching this at work, wherever you are, I promise you, it's not this huge idea that you have to come up with or this big plan. You have to do the little things and really do them really well. And, you know, I think another thing is you have to see yourself where you want to be. I think that is so important and is so misunderstood, in my opinion. I know I misunderstood it, that I can't tell you the importance of every day seeing yourself as the person you intend to become at your goal. So
I 100% agree with everything you just said. And I think one of the things that holds a lot of people back is being overwhelmed and getting stuck. So they're overwhelmed with all the information, not knowing what information to take, what to study every day. Do I have to study 6 hours a day? You know, what am I supposed to be consuming on a daily basis? What am I supposed to be doing on a daily basis? I have the pleasure of hosting many Q&A calls with Bob and also attending our events with our clients. And I think a lot of people get overwhelmed thinking, I have a job and then I'm supposed to be studying and spending time with my family and taking action. How do you fit it all into 24 hours a day and make the progress and towards your goal that you're really looking to make, meaningful progress? So maybe you can talk a little bit about that.
You know, it's a great question because, you know, a lot of people come to me and say, you know, I've been studying this for a number of years and nothing has happened. I have a full-time job, I have family, I have kids. It's a very good question. I actually asked this question to Bob, and he said, all somebody needs to do is study an hour a day. If they'll make that a habit of studying an hour a day, they are going to create a significant change in their life, because studying is the key. Because how do you get understanding? You get understanding through studying. And I don't mean just reading 1,000 books. I've shared on different webinars I've been on that I used to read a lot of books and I gathered a lot of information and created no results. Then when I worked with Bob, he told me, well, why, I'll never forget it. He says, well, why are you reading the book? Can you explain it to somebody? He says, read it, the same thing over and over again. And I love this quote from Bruce Lee. He said, "I was never concerned about my opponents who practice 1,000 moves. I was more concerned about my opponents who practice one move 1,000 times." Now let's think about this for the goals, okay? Let's say somebody has a goal that they want to double their income, okay? Now imagine if somebody did what I suggested and wrote down what they want, start seeing themselves as the person, maybe spend 5-10 minutes a day seeing themselves as the person, use the goal card, start imprinting the image in their mind of what they want. That lack of belief that you were talking about earlier, all of a sudden turns into belief. Okay, these are little things that I'm talking about. And we haven't even gotten into action yet, because there is action. It's not just that you read this or you do this, okay? But what we want to do with our goals, for the people who, I know I'm giving a drawn out answer to this, but there's a point to this. What we want to do is, when we set a goal right now, it starts as a want, okay? And the want is in our conscious mind. So if everybody can just picture the stick figure for a second, the want is in the top half. We want to turn that want into a desire. The desire is in the bottom half, in our subconscious. Well, how do we get the want into a desire? Well, we have to use repetition. So once you get repetition and turn it into a desire, you get emotionally involved, and then you will achieve your goal, okay? And I encourage everybody, commit an hour a day to study. Have it as a combination of reading, writing, listening to audios, you know, maybe watching webinars. You know, I've always encouraged mentorship, because you can get easily overwhelmed with this, because mentorship will give you the right direction step by step on what to do. You know, I know that was the big game changer for me when I finally got the right direction. But for the people who are overwhelmed, understand you're doing too many things, okay? You shouldn't be overwhelmed. Focus on the little things, once again, compounded over time, and do it 1,000 times.
Thanks, Raj. So you mentioned action, and we are going to talk about that in just a minute. But first, you talked about spending 1 hour studying a day. And I know that you are an extremely serious student, and you have a very rigorous study routine. Maybe you could give everyone a few things that they could do every single day that might fill that 1 hour of study. For the person that's overwhelmed choosing what I should be studying, what I should be doing, can you talk about an hour for them?
Well, I switch my study habits around of what I do, but I'll tell you what I'm doing now. The first thing I do is, when I start my day, is I do gratitude. I don't write it out, because when I write it out, for me, it becomes an intellectual exercise. So what I like to do is, when I have dogs and I take my dogs for a walk, the first thing I do is just focus for 5-10 minutes on gratitude, what I'm grateful for in the moment. Then I do the goal card, what I was talking about earlier. I will hold my goal card up, it's right in front of me, and I will walk around and read it. And I'll read it for 5 minutes. I literally put a clock, you know, that'll buzz after 5 minutes, so I know. And every time I do it, I get more emotionally involved. So by the time I do it, I'll probably read it about 50, 60 times in the morning. And then I like to go exercise in the morning. I have a trainer, so I go work out. Then I get into my day. Then in the middle of the day, I read the self-confidence formula from Napoleon Hill. And there's a PDF that I think anybody could research and get of that. I read it once a day. And then I also set in my middle of my day, I'll read for 20, 30 minutes. And then I go back into work. So I don't just study all at once. I sporadically do it throughout the day because my day's busy just like everybody else's. And then in the evening, I like recapping my day. I'll watch, I'll either listen to an audio, I'll watch a webinar that we do, and then I finish the day with my wins. I like writing my wins for the day, because I figure if I keep focusing on the little things that I did well, not what I didn't do, then the more wins I'll have. So that's what I like to do. But like I said, Mikey, I switch it up. Like if I notice I'm getting bored with something, I need to switch it up. So I want to constantly get my mind emotionally involved with what I want. And I'm always thinking about ideas throughout the day. And I have a notebook that I keep by me that if an idea comes, whether it's something I discuss with you, something I discuss with Bob, something I discuss with Sandy, I have ideas throughout the day that pop on that I'll write. And those ideas may go nowhere. They may not even resonate, but I always write them down. And that's how I plan my day.
Perfect. Thank you, Raj. And for those of you rigorously trying to take notes, or maybe that didn't have a piece of paper in front of you, don't worry, there's going to be a replay available, so you'll be able to go back and get those exact steps that you could be taking each day. So Raj, let's talk a little bit about action. And this is a huge piece of success. So I'm just going to leave you with an open-ended question there. What can you tell us about action and how important it is for success?
I can tell you it's the key to success, number one. You know, you could do all those study things that I told you, but if you don't act on any of your ideas, nothing's going to change. I promise you that. You know, you have to get into action. And you may not know all the steps. I know I didn't when I started. I remember thinking, well, what are the action steps to get me from where I am to such a lofty goal? And I didn't know them. But the dots always connect as you keep doing it. Even if you just did one step every day that you know you could do, okay? Then those steps will turn into 2 steps. You'll start the dots. The universe will always give you guidance on what to do, okay? The dots always connect, but you always got to get into action. You want to constantly do, I mean, eventually I would love for everyone to do maybe 4 or 5 things every day, okay, that gets them to their goal. But it starts with 1, then 1 turns into 2, then 2 turns into 3. Once again, it's the little things compounded over time that create the big results. I was reading a book this week about this. It was a book by Tim Ferriss, and I can't remember the title, but he interviewed a bunch of billionaires. And the billionaires, and there was interviews. The whole book's just interviews. And I was reading it, and I found it fascinating. He said the one common denominator of all these people who are billionaires and high achievers is they've mastered 3 to 4 things all the time. So it's not 1,000 things they master, it's 3 or 4. So, and I was thinking back to what Bob's taught me, and Bob makes it very simple. You know, he doesn't say go master everything. He says find what you love and do what you love every day and master that. And the way you master it is through practice. And you're going to have to fail your way forward. You're going to have to make mistakes, but you don't let the mistakes control you. Okay? The only time anybody ever fails is when they give up.
Thanks, Raj. And you know, you just talked about some of the friction that people will experience as they're going after their best year ever and their biggest goals in 2017. And some of that friction might be mistakes or obstacles or self-doubt, worry, fear. Maybe you can talk about minimizing that friction or overcoming that friction so that they can really get into harmony with achieving their goal.
Okay, sure. So here's the first key that I find, you know, and I found out with myself and with the clients I work with. Whatever's happened to the past, don't bring that into the future. Let's say somebody in 2016 really wanted to achieve their big dream, but it didn't happen. Just because it didn't happen doesn't mean it's not going to happen. It was just the wrong timing, number one. So what I mean by that is just because the past doesn't equal your future unless you allow it to. So to allow yourself to set yourself up to win, once again, you've got to start living from the wish fulfilled. You want to start living from the end. That's number one. Now, a lot of times, a lot of things come in that block people from achieving their goals, and it's procrastination. Once again, they're always planning to plan. I was telling a client this week, he said, I think, I want to get mentored by Bob. I was talking to him, and he asked me my advice on the mentorship, and he says, I want to get mentored by Bob, and I'm going to start January 24th. I said, why in the world would you want to start over a month from now? And I said, have you been studying Bob long? Because anybody who's been around Bob knows how much importance he puts on decision making. And I told him, I said, you might be looking for the wrong mentor then. He said, what do you mean? I said, Bob is all about speed. You make a decision and you act on it like this. He's ingrained that in me, And for people with their goals, once again, if we go back to the beginning of the call, act on your goal right now. Make the decision. But I told this gentleman that, and he said, oh my God, this is what I've been doing my whole life, you know? And he acted on it, and I guarantee you, like you just, you know, once you're in this business, you know who's going to succeed. You know when somebody makes a decision and they're ready to take off. And I guarantee you, this gentleman is really going to take off.
That's so great. Raj, you know, we have quite a few people on the line right now, and I'm guessing that not all of them have heard your story. And I think you have a really inspiring success story. And I was wondering if you could just share that with us.
Sure, no problem. So I had been studying Bob's teachings and other people's teaching, whether it was Napoleon Hill, Earl Nightingale, other people's, for about 3 years. I actually spent, not with Bob, I hadn't met Bob yet, but I spent a lot of money on my personal development in a 3-year period and created no results. And I had just lost my job. My company sold. The new company wanted to cut my pay, and I quit. And I decided not to stay with the new company. Anyway, this was 3 weeks before my wedding, and Bob and I had a mutual acquaintance who connected me with Bob. And Bob, he said, you need to talk to my friend. I said, who's your friend? He said, Bob Proctor. I said, you're kidding. I love him. And he said, no, I'm serious. You need to talk to him, because he knew I was struggling. I was in over $150,000 of debt, and I was in a bad spot. Well, Bob spoke with me, and it really changed everything, because I'll never forget it, because the first thing he asked me, he said, well, what is it that you really want? He said, not what do you think you can have, what do you really want? And I said, I'd love to create a life of freedom doing what I love. He said, well, what do you love? I said, helping people. He said, well, I could show you how to do that. He said, how serious are you to make the change? I said, I'm very serious, because I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. And he said, will you do what I tell you? I said, yeah, I mean, my way is not working. I said, but will this work? Because I tried other stuff that hadn't worked. And he said, until you find out that I'm lying or I don't know what I'm talking about, he said, then you can come back to me. He said, I don't lie, and I really know what I'm talking about. He says, but you've got to do exactly what I tell you. And I said, I will do exactly what you tell me. And that was when I made the decision. And I was in a terrible situation. There was nothing in my present circumstances that said, go spend thousands of dollars to be mentored. Okay. There was nothing there, but I knew internally that everything that I had been studying said, find a mentor and do what they tell you. Well, I never knew where to look at that time. You know, I did them through books and different things online, but never actual direction. Well, I ended up doing what Bob told me. And I remember coming home telling my fiance at that time, my wife now, you know, I told her the same day I lost my job that I invested in a mentorship. Anyway, I made a decision that for the first time in my life that I was going to do exactly what he told me, because I used to be a great starter and a terrible finisher. So I'd set a goal, I'd be super excited, and then it would taper off after a few weeks or, you know, within 30 days really, you know, and then this was a little overwhelming to me because it was a year long, but I said, well, if I keep doing what I'm doing, that's not going to work. So I'm just going to trust it. So I ended up doing what he told me, and everything changed dramatically. I discovered my purpose, which is what I do now with helping people. I increased my income significantly. I got healthy, and everything changed in my life. Now, if you would have told me, Mikey, 8 years ago, that conversation, I walked away super excited, but I didn't know if it was going to work. But I really, really built one day on top of the next. And then I created so much momentum with it that after 30 days, because I did something straight for 30 days for the first time, that I knew I was on the right track, and that's when everything took off.
Thanks for sharing, Raj. So I, like you, really want to support everyone who's on the line and creating a life of freedom and achieving all of their dreams in 2017. And so we've got a couple of resources for everyone. You can see under this video, there's a button to join our closed Facebook group. This is our Bob Proctor Live Facebook group. It's an exclusive closed Facebook group where our PGI team posts exclusive content and downloads for everyone. You also get inside information, early offers from us. And it's also a really great place to go and mastermind and be supported by like-minded people who are all on the same page, moving forward towards a goal and achieving something. So I really want to encourage everyone to join that Facebook group and also comment in the Facebook group today, letting us know what you're going to do today to achieve your best year ever, your best life ever. Something else that we have on the page right now is a web form. And this is just a web form if you're interested in working closer with Bob. And Raj, you work extremely closely with Bob like I do. We're very fortunate. Maybe you can tell everybody what that looks like.
Well, it's amazing. I mean, Bob, I always tell people who see Bob online or from a distance, I've never met a more giving person than Bob. He's the most giving person I've ever met. Be careful when you tell him what you want, because he will hold you accountable to it and he will stretch you and make sure that you achieve it. So you have to be really ready when you tell him what you want. Bob has impacted my life in so many ways. I was telling my wife about it last night, just looking back on how far we've come. And I've had to do the work, but Bob has guided me and showed me what to do. And he's made me a better person because he's taught me how to do things the right way and not focus on the present results. You know, that's one thing that I have a lot of big lessons that I've learned from him, but one of the things that I remember is whenever I've been stuck, he told me, he said, "Is that what you want?" And I said, "No." He said, "So why are we talking about it?" He said, "Start getting into what you want." He said, "Most people struggle because they let their present results control their intellect. So they let them control their thinking." He says, "You have to discipline your mind, not let your mind discipline you, or not let your environment discipline you." And he says, "You've got to master this, Arash. This is the key to success." He said, "You have got to become what you want, and you get to choose two things. You get to choose what you think about and your attitude." And that lesson, you know, there's two ways, Mike, where we can change a paradigm, right? We could do it through spaced repetition and elite level coaching, and we could do it through an emotional impact. Well, that lesson was an emotional impact for me. It like hit me like a ton of bricks, and I started trying to understand it better. Then I started understanding it, and now that's what I teach to my team and different people I help. You know, so you know, for anybody who has a chance to work closely with Bob, I think if there's people on this watching this who already have, they know what I'm talking about. Your world will change dramatically, and it changes quickly when you look back on it.
Thanks, Raj. That's so true. And I want to just have you leave the last comments for everyone. So what do you want to leave everyone with?
Well, I want to leave everyone with, you guys, this is just the start. If you guys will implement what you're learning from Bob, what we're talking about here, I promise you 2017 will be the benchmark to what you're going to do in 2018. 2018 will be better than 2017. 2019 will be better than 2018. But make a decision. If anybody's sitting there saying, "Oh, you know, I've heard this before, but it doesn't work for me," I promise you, it works for every single person. It'll work for you. Just make a decision. Start controlling your mind and start getting the right support. Surround yourself with the right people in your life. Get mentors. It doesn't matter what the investment is for mentorship. I promise you, it will change your life, you know, but I promise you, you guys all have a bright future ahead of you. Just stay in tune with what Bob is telling you to do, all the great information that you have access to now. Just stay and apply it, but take massive action and commit that 2017 is going to be your best year ever.
Thanks, Raj. It's a pleasure as always. And one more time, if you are interested in joining us in one of our programs, Working Closer with Bob and Sandy, go ahead and fill out that form just to the right of the video feed, and we will be in touch with you shortly. Thanks, Raj.
All right. Thanks, Mike.